People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you're never getting that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees. They don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Hello again, and welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, you can find us at zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA-wealth.com. And we hope you do find us. I mean, you found us here on the radio, and we hope you find us in the office as well, because when it's time to talk about your retirement, Charisse is that person to walk you through that process. Charisse, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, and I'm well on my way of this New Year's resolution and staying strong.
That's pretty good. We're getting toward the end of January. You still holding strong, huh?
I am holding strong.
Okay. All right.
I definitely went on siesta time over the holidays, and I'm paying for it right now. But you know what? I feel good. I started Orange Theory, by the way.
Oh, okay.
And I have to tell you all that I'm a competitor by heart, because I haven't really worked out much in the latter part of 2023. And I'm just started getting back. My first day at Orange Theory, I didn't really understand these things called blats. And the more blats means the harder you worked out. So most people come in, they're like, the goal is your first time to have 12 blats.
Okay.
The whole place was full. I think 22 people can fit in there. I did 38 blats in my 50-minute workout. And a quarter to the end, the girl come to me and she said, "Are you okay?"
You need to slow down.
I know, I'm on the treadmill, and I look at her. I'm like, "Well, I'm talking to you. I'm running. I think I'm okay. Am I doing this wrong?" She's like, "Well, you've stayed in the red zone the whole time, which is unusual for a beginner." And also, I hurt my hip, so I was like a little worried. So anyways, the top blat was 41, and nobody was close to 38. They were at 30. So I called my brother. I'm like, "I did this Orange Theory. Have you ever done it?" And he said, "Yeah." He's like, "I stopped doing it because I was so competitive and I worked so hard." And he's like, "I would just overdo it every time." I said, "I've been sore for 3 days and haven't been able to walk, and then my hip is hurting really bad. So I had to take a week off." Does anybody go through this? I feel like I'm 22 in my brain, and my body will really I will give a real go at it for an hour. I walked out almost tripping 4 times. And I went, "Charisse, this is how you hurt your back." Luckily, I'm feeling great. So I'm back on it, but I'm not going to shoot for that high of a blat. Whatever. It's like a point, I guess.
I think for me, it'd be more of a splat instead of a blat.
That's funny. Anyway, so there's a 8-week challenge. So I was like, what the heck? Let's do a challenge. So now I'm doing the challenge.
Oh my gosh. Well,
can't help myself.
One thing you'll find with Charisse is if you walk in the door and you sit down at the office, you're going to get a lot of great financial advice, but it might come from somebody who's a little bit sore.
Yeah, and very competitive.
Okay.
I think my clients appreciate that, though.
All right. Well, let's get at it here. I wanted to hit this one real quick here. The headlines in the financial news, the SEC approved a Bitcoin ETF. Now, Charisse, you've been very high on ETFs. You like them better than mutual funds.
Right.
But let me ask you about this. I mean, Bitcoin's risky and all of that. Now they're putting it in an ETF. Does that make this more mainstream? Does that mean that it'll be more acceptable and that somebody might get into this and maybe they shouldn't? It worries me a little bit. What do you think?
Bitcoin, we all watched it go to 60,000 and then crash and burn, right? It doesn't make sense on how it's going up and why it goes up. We know when we get closer to elections, it actually has historically shown to go up, which is very interesting. But last year we expected it to do better than it did, right? So I think it's all about age and your time horizon, how close you are to retirement. Are you in retirement? Because bottom line, I like ETFs. And for certain people, I might recommend this ETF, but you would have to have an excess of dollars that you don't need, that you're going to leave as an inheritance, because I don't know how long it's going to take. And the ups and downs and the speculation is still unknown. Having companies get involved will help it.
Yeah, they got Fidelity, they got Invesco, they got BlackRock. So there's some big names out there that are going to offer this ETF. So that also adds to its, and I'm using air quotes, credibility.
Yeah. So, but I will tell you this thing, Randy, when people walk in and meet us for the first time, they don't ask us for the jiggliest thing we have.
Right.
So if they walk in and say, hey, can you offer Bitcoin? Now they're asking me for the jiggliest thing they have. I don't think the story is going to change. People who are nearing retirement or in retirement, they don't want the riskiest thing. They really don't, right? But in retirement, we're not shooting for the moon. We're shooting for the stars, and we're trying to get all of our stars aligned with the right growth plan, the right safety plan, keeping up with inflation, keeping up with the interest rate environment. So slow and steady wins the race in retirement. I'm not telling you can't have it, and we'll be happy to offer it. Who knows? Maybe it'll go into one of my active managed portfolios one day. But right now, the speculation and how this roller coaster ride happens with Bitcoin, for most retirees, they can't emotionally handle the drops. If you have 5% of your portfolio that you said, Charisse, I'm never going to touch this. This is a legacy. If it does great with Bitcoin, great. If it does awful and we lose it all, or it just doesn't do anything, I'm okay with it also, then that would be up to the client who works with us. But I do like there's all these big companies getting involved. I wonder if they really understand it.
Gosh, I hope so. Well, the risk involved is the big question here. And I think you hit it on the head there. Probably not so great for a retiree, but it may be just a little teeny sliver of what they have. Maybe that's what they're interested in. There's a guy, his name is Jeff Sika. He's one of the analysts that they use regularly on Fox Business. And this is what he had to say about a Bitcoin ETF.
This new ETF is going to bring billions and billions of dollars into Bitcoin, mostly from institutions. It will probably give Bitcoin a boost, but owning Bitcoin is like having a tiger as a pet. It's cool, it's fun, until it decides to attack you and eat you.
Okay, that doesn't sound so good at the end.
Well, if I was going to use an analogy, that was really a fantastic one.
I like it.
Yeah, and everybody who has already invested in it has already been bitten, right?
That's true.
Unless you were smart enough to sell at the top, right? Yeah. And most people were not. So there you have it. So we talk about creating paychecks in retirement, right? We want to make sure that there are paychecks coming in, even when there's a roller coaster ride and the market's down. We want those paychecks coming to you no matter what, right? And this hopefully lowers some stress in retirement. I mean, that's what paychecks do. Now, like gold doesn't produce you a paycheck. Bitcoin doesn't produce you a paycheck. So you would have to sell your Bitcoin and or gold if that's where you decided to invest, for example, all your money. And if Bitcoin is as wobbly as it has been and it goes down and now you need a paycheck from it, that is uncertainty. And those are big hazards you have to be very careful for. And here's the thing, we always talk about, we have this rocket ship moving forward, and as you try to catch the tail of your rocket, you're eventually going to get burned. And that can be with Bitcoin, that could be with equities, that could be with so many different investments and instruments out there. So always remember that analogy, because I see the numbers. I saw a Bitcoin go from 20,000 to 40,000, and the hype is starting again. We get a little anxious. Ooh, we need to get in it before we get to 60. And some people might wait till 50. And you know what I mean?
And it goes down to
feel
15.
You all.
Yeah,
I'm empathetic. I get the same feeling. So we got to be extra careful as we're prepping for retirement, and especially in retirement, because the goal is in retirement is to lock down your lifestyle. And if you are too risky, you can't lock down the lifestyle. Meaning lock down is making sure that you have paychecks coming in so you can go on trips, even if the market's down. Because if the market's down, I bet you all do not book the very next year's trip or cruise or vacation. I even bet the next couple of years you don't, because now you're trying to play catch up, and if you sell anything, you lose, and you are all taught financial conventional wisdom. It's a paper loss. So don't you dare in retirement sell, because now you're not following your financial conventional wisdom that you've been taught for 30 to 40 years. You're probably thinking, well, shucks, Charisse, you are right. I didn't think of that. You're right. But I need my income now. And if I'm going to be in this roller coaster ride, how do we do it? And this is our specialty.
Well, that's one thing that we'd like to do here on the show is when you see those big splashy headlines, let's just take a big, deep breath and kind of analyze it a little bit, get a little opinion on that. And that's kind of what we do here on the show. If you want to ask about Bitcoin and ETFs and the things that are out there right now that might be available now, give Charisse a call and let's talk through it. 833-368-3680, or you can find us online at zinniawealth.com. All right, so Charisse, we're getting toward the end of January, and the W-2s and the 1099s are coming out, and people are buying their tax software, and it's time to do taxes. Mm-hmm. And so many of you who are going to get a refund, you can't wait to go out there and start doing the figuring. But if you're not going to get a refund, you probably leave this until the last part of March and first part of April. But there are some things that people don't know. Certainly, that tax code is about 100,000 pages long. How are you going to know all of that? But we don't want to leave money on the table, Charisse. So walk us through. You've got a list today of some things that people usually leave on the table because they're just simply unaware and they need to know these things. So let's talk through them.
Yeah. So what are the most popular tax deductions that retirees miss when you're doing your own taxes? Because I know a lot of people, have programs and they're doing it on their own. And it seems like the single filers tend to miss it the most, but also joint filers. So I just want to go through a few of them. Really, there's like 8 of them, but I'm going to go through what I think are the top 4. The first one is the extra deduction you get for being 65 and older. Some people don't realize that they get, when you're a single person, you get an extra $1,850 as a single filer on top of your standard deduction. So there is this data out there saying people are missing that, right? And then let's say you're married and let's say one of you are 65 and the other one isn't. That means you get $1,550. And once the second spouse turns 65, you get a total extra of $3,000 of a tax deduction on top of your regular standard deduction.
Nice.
So we want to make sure we don't forget that. And when you're doing your own taxes, it's easily forgotten, right? So that's one of them.
Okay.
There's a saver's credit of $2,000, but there's 2 requirements that you have to meet. When you come in and see us, we can talk about that. But you could Google the saver's credit. And it's really income orientated based on, are you paying taxes on Social Security, pensions, annuities, et cetera? Because a lot of people are not. So if you are not, there's some positive extra tax. It's actually a tax credit. So it's not even a deduction. It's even better, in my opinion.
Okay.
One other thing that I noticed that I read about, but I already knew it was happening, we get a lot of retirees who are working part-time, and maybe they're making $10,000 a year. You know that they can still contribute to their own personal IRA. If they have an IRA wherever they're at, let's say they're retired, they move their 401k, rolled it to an IRA, wherever it is locally, you can contribute to the IRA, right? And it's really important to understand this because you used to be able to contribute if you're 50 and over $7,000 a year. Now in 2024, it's $8,000 a year. And if you have a spouse who isn't working, well, you can do another $8,000 for them, right? Okay. So people forget that they can keep contributing. But in my opinion, the retiree doesn't necessarily need the tax write-off depending on where they've saved their money. Some people do, some people don't. I like the fact that you can contribute to a Roth IRA if you want to. And if you have a non-working spouse, you can also contribute the $8,000 to the non-working Roth IRA for the spouse. So a lot of people forget about that. They have the extra collateral to do it. And, you can write the check for many of your accounts to get included into those contributions. And I'm all about adding to a Roth IRA. But if we need a deduction this year, hey, maybe that's a good strategy as well. So let's not forget about that. A lot of people are forgetting about it when they can use it as a tool to help save in taxes or grow their tax-free growth. Last but not least, it's probably one of my favorites. It's the QCD rule. We talk about it all the time in the classes, and we talk about it on radio. Qualified charitable distributions. So most retirees, Randy, a lot of them used to itemize. They no longer need to itemize their taxes and all their write-offs because the standard deduction they get now is higher than ever, right? And now that you're over 65, it's even higher, right? You get to add in the extra. So what happens is when people embark into this RMD phase of life where they are forced to pull money out of their retirement accounts and IRAs at a whopping almost 4% the first year they start, well, you have to pay taxes on that. That's the whole point, right? It doesn't mean you have to spend it. You just have to pull it out, pay taxes on it. So if you are doing the short form, that's the standard deduction. And then let's just say you are writing a check to your church or charity out of your bank on the dollars you already paid taxes on. Well, guess what? You don't get to deduct that because you are taking that full standard deduction already. And anything you decide to tithe or donate, you don't get the write-off. But that was a really nice thing you did for them, right? They get it tax-free. So how do you make it work doubly for you if you're taking the standard deduction? Well, instead of writing checks out of your checkbook on dollars that have already been taxed on, take those IRA dollars, because once you hit this RMD phase of life where you're forced to pull money out, you qualify to do this, to file this qualified charitable distribution form. If you're donating $5,000 or tithing $5,000 to a church and you have to take $20,000 out in required minimum distributions, don't do it from your checkbook anymore. This is the biggest mistake people make on the daily. Do it from your retirement accounts, because on that QCD form, you put, hey, this is my church. This is their tax ID number. And of the $20,000 I'm taking, I'm going to live on 15. I'll pay taxes on that part. But I want 5,000 to go there or 10,000 to go there. You can literally take your entire RMD and pay zero taxes on it if you're going to tithe it or give it to a charity, up to $100,000 per Social Security number per year.
Wow.
So that's interesting. That's one of the big ones that were missed. And a lot of people think, hey, I do the standard deductions. They donate to the charities and churches, and they're not realizing they don't get to write that off. So write it off through your IRA. So you are beating Uncle Sam, and they won't even be expecting it.
Well, we talk about how things change in retirement. You know, through our working lives, taxes are something we pay out of our paycheck. But in retirement, there's things like capital gains and RMDs and QCDs and all these different things. There's so many different aspects of the same stuff that we've been dealing with that we really need some help with. And to get help with that, give Charisse a call. And if it's tax time and you got a tax question there, she has the resources to help you with that. Give us a look on our website, which is zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. And you'll see there a gold button that says Complimentary Retirement Consultation. If you click on that, we'll ask you to put in a little information there, and our team will reach out to you, or you can reach out to us right now, 833-368-3680. We'll take a break, come right back with more Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, you can find us at zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. And as always, we have a tab there for events. And we're starting up with Zinnia U. Lots of great classes once again, January the 23rd and January the 31st at the Villages at the Zinnia Center, February the 6th at Ocala at the College of Central Florida. Once again, just giving you an idea of what you're in for when it comes to retirement. There are people that are getting ready for retirement that come and see these. There are people that are in retirement to come and take advantage of some of this great information that Charisse gives you, and just an opportunity for you to ask some questions there. So you can find it all online at zinniawealth.com or give us a call for the class nearest you. These, of course, are free, 833-368-3680. All right, so Charisse, last year, I remember we did our show for 2023, 2024, look back, look forward. One of the things that you and I talked about a lot was the interest rates and how that has affected some financial products like CDs, money markets, I-bonds, annuities, things like that are dependent on interest rates. They all had a really good year. And if you decided to jump in, take a look at your mailbox in the next couple of weeks, because you might get a form called a 1099 INT. And that means you have to pay taxes on the interest that you earned here. So if you were all, excited about getting 5%, well, now you're going to pay a little more. So 5% really isn't 5%.
More like 4%.
Exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm.
So, Charisse, We all want income in retirement, and people look to these things for income. They want to go outside the stock market and the risk of the stock market. So what can we say here? What's the lesson that we learned here? I guess some things come with a tax tag and other things don't, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's tax-deferred growth, tax-free growth. There's so many different ways to do this. And a lot of people will run 2 CDs because it's glorious. It's 5%. And I encourage it, actually. But you have to remember those dollars, the non-qualified, meaning non-Roth, non-IRA dollars, you have capital gains tax on the growth each year. And I truly believe in triple compounding interest, where you get that interest, you get the 5%, and then you don't pay the taxes on it because it's tax deferred. You don't have the capital gains. So then the next year, the next set of interest, that 5% that you get, it's compounding over and over and over, triple compounding interest. So there are alternatives and investments out there that allow that. It's interesting because I just spoke to a gentleman who is selling a block of land and going to be hit with about $1.5 million in taxes. So we're talking about tax strategies and how not to pay any taxes on it. And after we got done talking, I said, now let's talk about the money you have now, because all of their money is non-qualified, not IRA, and they have a ton of it. And it's in bank CDs and et cetera. I said, and they have rental income, they have pensions, they have Social Security. I mean, they are doing amazing, but their tax bill is off the charts. And that's why they came to us. So we're doing these tax strategies with them. And they didn't realize that there are other options out there that are paying 5% where it can just be tax deferred growth. And then if they pass away, then it just gets passed on to the kiddos, right? So there's always something out there, right? Another strategy, another way to limit your taxes. But yes, you're going to have to pay capital gains taxes. And the average capital gain tax now is still 15% to 20%, depending on where your income is at. And if you made a lot and your income is a lot higher than maybe the typical person, there's also the net investment tax, NIIT, which is an extra 3.8 to 5% on top of your 15% or 20% in capital gains tax. And if you are thinking, what the heck does that mean, Charisse? Because my marginal income tax rate is only at 12% or something like that. These are your investments, okay? And your investments, some investments are taxed differently than your income. Some of your investments are actually taxed differently than your IRA dollars, because your IRA dollars, when you take your money, even though it's grown tax deferred, meaning you don't pay the taxes until you pull it out, and that's taxed at ordinary income rates. And sometimes ordinary income rates can be lower than your capital gains taxes and vice versa. So there's a lot of planning when it comes to being strategic on what exact assets should go in what exact tax bucket. And that is something we do specialize in and I care about very much. I mean, we get clients that say, hey, Charisse, I want to put this $1 million of non-qualified money and I want to put it in your active managed portfolio. It's like, I highly don't recommend it, because when we buy and sell, you're going to have short-term capital gains, which is basically your higher ordinary income rates. So like, what? Like, so we can't do that? I'm like, no, but I got another strategy for you. So there's so much involved in what we do here. And it's just evolving. And even the CPAs out there are having a hard time keeping up with all these new tax changes. So we do leave the tax guiding and numbers to our CPAs and the bookkeeping, but we do the tax strategies, where a lot of offices do not do that. So it's valuable at Zinnia. Income planning, tax strategies, inflation protection.
Well, we've talked about this a lot in the past, about how income is such an important portion of retirement planning. I mean, you live your life on your paycheck right now. You're going to live your life on your paycheck in retirement. But if that retirement comes with every single time you take money out, it's like going through a toll booth. You got to pay money to get your own money.
Exactly.
It just gets frustrating, and you need some professionals to kind of help and guide you through that. There's gonna be some of that, but what if we could avoid some of that too?
Right.
So
and it helps when you have dollars like this with your I bonds and at the CDs and et cetera, or if you're selling stocks, to do tax loss harvesting, which is something that we do. So for example, let's say you had a $50,000 in Amazon that you made this year, you had it long term, and then you had, let's say Altria, maybe that stock went down $50,000. If you sold both of them, you'd wash out the taxes, and you can take the dollars and reinvest it in something maybe that's going up. So there's cool strategies there, and so we love implementing them. If you guys don't have somebody that does that, come see us, and we'll definitely direct traffic.
Well, here is our number, 833-368-3680, or online at zinniawealth.com. That's real easy. You'll see the big gold box there. You just click on that, and you'll be on your way. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we have some interesting people to hear from. We've got a guy who says 2024 is going to be a disaster. The gloom and doomers, they're out there, and we'll deal with that. And you remember the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, the guy who Leonardo DiCaprio played? Well, he has some interesting opinions about all this that's going on in the market and what people are talking about right now. That is coming up on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, you can find us at zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. You've heard Charisse on the radio for years, and you say, sooner or later, I'm going to get up to that time when I'm going to need to talk about my retirement. Well, you're getting closer. It's time to sit down and have that conversation. So give us a look on our website, zinniawealth.com. All right. So last couple of weeks, Charisse, we've been dealing with predictions of 2024. And there's always the people that say, hey, it's going to be a boom. And then there's other who say it's going to be a bust. Well, Harry Dent is a guy who sees nothing but black clouds. He's a guy, he's a real bear. He's a real pessimist. And this is what he has to say about 2024.
These markets are stretched, especially with the biggest tightening since the early 80s, one of the biggest ever by the Fed. That will knock the economy down and lag, even though it's not showing yet. It's not showing it because it happens on a year and a half lag. Everything does. That's where the Fed gets in trouble, this big lag. Remember that the next wave down should take us back to the COVID lows, which is going to be down 50 to 60% for the various U.S. major indices.
All right, so I'm a guy getting ready for retirement. I hear Harry Dent. He says the market's going down 50 to 60%. I don't want to lose half my money. I need to do something right now. No, maybe not. Charisse, what do you think of Harry? Is he just a total alarmist, or does he have a point?
He is an absolute total alarmist.
Okay.
But everybody has their day when they're finally right.
Sooner or later, he'll be right, right? A broken clock is right twice a day, right?
It's true. But I will say this. So the market, has been going up beginning of the year, right? I will tell you this much. The economy is not as strong fundamentally as people think. Mm-hmm. The underlying fundamentals, they are not good, Randy. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, I think in the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to start seeing it deteriorate over time.
Okay.
Because if you look at what happened in 2023, banks, they had to let so many people go.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say by the end of 2024, we're looking at maybe close to 100,000 employees. That's larger than what they had to do during the financial crisis in 2008. And so we're not feeling the pain yet, right? Okay. But you usually don't feel the pain until about a year and a half later, typically.
That's what he's talking about, that lag, yeah.
The lag. Mm-hmm. And it's so true. I mean, and look at like companies like UPS and FedEx. I mean, they're going to be laying people off, mm-hmm. right? So we're seeing, so when the banks don't do well, that is not an environment where there's expansion, mm-hmm. right? Banks need to be doing well for expansion because that means companies are getting loans. You're putting more money in the bank. There's a lot going on there. So this is not a sign for expansion. So right now the market looks great because we're dealing with the Magnificent Seven. I know you've all heard that before. It's a top 7 stocks that are creating all this growth in the stock market. And honestly, in 2023, if you took out those 7, the stock market would have barely have grown at all, mm-hmm, truly. Mm-hmm. So if it's 7 that's holding up the market, that's pushing everything forward, we just need 2 of those 7 to have major issues, and it's going to get really hairy and ugly, right? Yeah. So we can't predict, and Harry Dent might be finally right, but there is a recession looming. And I have done a lot of homework on this, and the economic position we are in, those fundamentals are getting worse and worse and worse. And when banks are having to fire people, and even Citigroup, I have Citi, And I think they put something out that they're letting go of 10 to 15% of their employees. I mean, now we're talking about credit cards. We talked about this. Credit cards are getting maxed out. People are starting not to pay it back. So I do worry about that. So we do need to pause and realize, hey, this Bitcoin thing sounds great. Hey, the stock market sounds great. Don't have FOMO, the fear of missing out, because you're trying to chase now. If you are nearing retirement, if you are 1 to 2 years from retirement, you are the one that needs to be extra cautious. If you are in retirement, you do not have time to make up losses. So I reiterate this because we love stock market growth, right? But how much is too much in the stock market if you need to live on those dollars? So that's the thing I always come back to, because we are almost $3.4 trillion in the debt. And of that debt, 1.1 trillion, or it's a little almost 1.1 trillion, is our interest. Holy cannolis. That is a big number. Hence why we got to get these interest rates down. So the question is when does it go backwards, right? Mm-hmm. The interest that we're paying on our debt is higher than what we pour into defense and Medicare and some of the other programs out there by over $200 billion, which is even more ridiculous. So we got to look at all those numbers when we are hearing all the chatter, the negative doom and gloomers and the positive people. Because, Randy, there's people out there saying, oh, no, this is going to be another good year.
Yeah. How do you sift through all this? Yeah,
it's a lot for the listeners, all the noise, which way to go, because most listeners, they want to go with the guy who's saying, yeah, the market's going, let's catch this rocket ship.
Let's follow that guy.
Right, and we don't want to get burned. So be careful, because as we chase this rocket ship, when eventually you're going to get burned, right? And it's okay to get burned, depending on your age and your scenario. I had a gentleman come in. We talked Marine Corps for an hour and a half, but on the second appointment, we kind of dug in. You know, he's got $2 million. He's got an incredible pension, Social Security. He doesn't even have to live on his money. And for him, technically, if he lost 50%, he's like, I'm not living on it anyways. He's okay with that. But at the end of the day, after we showed him how to do the math, and we showed him, but if you didn't lose all that money and you went the steady Eddie, you don't do the roller coaster, and we almost have the same amount of dollars down the road, right? And we did the math, and he went, I didn't realize that, because we showed him some things he didn't. Super whiz, smart guy, manages his own money. But he's like, so this is why I came to you for a second opinion, because I wasn't seeing those risks.
Well, isn't that what Warren Buffett says? The way to get ahead is not to lose. So have a portfolio that is built for the good and the bad, and so that you're going to succeed in both, and you don't lose so much. And I know that we play a little preventive defense here when it comes to our retirement portfolios, but that is certainly something that you need to talk about with Charisse. Give us a look on our website. If these markets scare you, if these headlines scare you, that might mean that you just simply have too much risk in your money. So let's adjust that. Give us a look. And our website is very simple, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com, or give us a call. Schedule an appointment. Let's sit down and talk through it. 833-368-3680. Well, one of the things that we all struggle with is how much should we be in that market? We talk about the risk level and having a very serious conversation about that. That's a big one. Well, we last week talked a little bit about this. The Wolf of Wall Street. We've all seen the movie. Leonardo DiCaprio played the part of Jordan Belfort. And in the end, Jordan Belfort went to prison for 22 months for fraud. Well, he's now out. He's doing very well. He wrote a book called The Wolf of Investing, and he's out there talking about it. He did an interview with Tucker Carlson, and he actually talked about the market. I mean, here's a guy who lived it. He was a trader. He did very, very well, but his opinion of Wall Street is not very good.
So in a casino, you go in there knowing that the odds are against you by 5%, depending on what game you play. So the odds are against you, and the house will win over time. But what if you go into a corrupt casino, where they have loaded dice and are dealing from the bottom of the deck? That's Wall Street, trying to convince people that, you could somehow figure out when you should buy oil and then sell your Meta and then somehow go into a steel stock and then go into overseas. I mean, it's insane. It doesn't work.
It makes me uncomfortable to think that my 401k is floundering around in that ocean. But I think what he's kind of saying is people who try to time the market and try to outguess these people and use all the data and listen to all of the talking heads and try to get ahead in this game, that's a fool's errand. So, I mean, we have to use the market, Charisse, and use it properly with a level head and not have that FOMO and not get greedy. And I think that's where he kind of talks about how people get themselves burned.
Yeah. So Wall Street for years, I mean, it's got a bad name. The financial services industry, it's got a bad name. Then they brought out the fiduciary rule, and some fiduciaries out there have a bad name, right? They probably won't be in business very long, or they just do things differently that don't really follow the fiduciary way. So you got to pay attention to it. And unfortunately, a lot of people get burned. They'll go from one financial advisor to another financial advisor, and then they just do it on their own, Randy. And then they sometimes don't realize how much risk they are taking. And that's the unfortunate thing, because you could be missing out on things that you could be investing in that aren't as risky, that might be producing a very similar rate of return or income. So I want the listeners to understand that we get it. We know where you're at. We do this every day. We sit with clients that are 55 and above every day, and they are worried. And then they also want to make money at the same time. So what we do differently, and I got a nice compliment the other day, is they said, Charisse, we hear you on the radio. You educate. We like what you're saying. It does make sense. Like what you say makes sense. It's just real. You're not a talking bobblehead that's trying to make it confusing. Then we came to your class, and it just really wrapped up the package of what you do on radio. And now I'm in your office on a second appointment. He's like, you're still educating. Like, when are you going to sell, Charisse? And I said, honestly, we don't do that here. We're going to educate you. We're going to show you where you're going wrong. We're going to show you how to go right. And if you like this, let us know. I mean, we just have a different philosophy. And one of our other different philosophies are, we really want to make sure your income checks are buttoned up. We want you to take inventory of what your lifestyle is going to look like in retirement or in the future, and what you want to do. And if you're not sure, we're going to help you, right? But we want to be tax efficient. We want to have a sustainable income that is adjustable with inflation as it's going up, right? We want to have protection strategies. We want to have growth strategies. We want it all. So we're really going to bring about a balanced approach, and we're going to show you why. We're just not going to tell you why. We're going to show it to you. We're going to put it on the big screen, and we're going to be like, boom. And we're not going to make you feel stupid. We're going to help you understand what we're trying to convey here, because this stuff is complicated. So we've just really come down to the nitty gritty on how to keep it simple and still get everything that you want at the end of the day. So I would say, as we age and we get into another season of life, you really need to turn your attention to those things that are more specific to your phase of life, right? Your life phase in retirement, because it's a whole new bag of goods, and you need to get educated about them, and you need to understand them.
Well, that goes back to what Charisse tells us regularly on this show, and that is, you're going to come into this with a different attitude than a lot of people are about markets and money and what you want to do. You may look at that stock market and say, Charisse, I do not want to swim in that pool. And then somebody else comes in and said, okay, I'll dip my toe in that pool. Or somebody says, I'm cannonballing right into that thing. And everybody is different, and we have to figure out where you are and where you're comfortable with whatever that market is bringing us. Let's sit down and talk through it and come up with a plan that's customized specifically for you. Here's our number. Here's our website, 833-368-3680. You can call us right now, or you can use our website. That's really easy. ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. And there's a gold button there that says a complimentary retirement consultation. That's exactly what it is. It's a free meeting where we sit down and talk through your concerns about your retirement and all your questions. Let's get them answered. Again, ZinniaWealth.com. There's a lot of people that have a lot of anxiety talking about their money. Why is that? Well, there's some scientific proof behind it, and we're going to actually go into that a little bit coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk. Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, you can find us at zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. We also have a podcast. If you're listening to the show and you didn't hear all of it, or you got to get out of the car, you want to hear a little bit more, we got all that on our website and at iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts. It's all right there for you. Just look up Retirement Coffee Talk. All right, so here's my question of the day for you, Charisse. I'm going to give you 4 topics. Which one of these do you think people want to avoid the most? Death, religion, politics, or their personal finances? Which one do they want to avoid the most?
Well, definitely personal finances.
You're
definitely.
Right. You're right. You're absolutely right. When people answered that question, religion came up at 32%. Politics at 35, death at 38, and personal finances at 44,
Ding, ding, ding.
Which means we would rather talk about death than our checkbook. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is very true, actually.
Well, I mean, people come into you. I mean, they are taking a little bit of a leap of faith here when I heard this lady on the radio, and I'm going to go talk to her about my retirement. I think that's admirable of people. But the study says that people are really afraid of judgment. As soon as they open up their financial life and say, okay, this is how much I've saved. If you've done a good job, people look at you in a good light. If you haven't saved as much, people have judgment. And people are really, really afraid of that. How do you get people to open up? Do you find that they're guarded when they first sit down with you, or are they open, or how do you build that trust? What do you say?
You know, it's interesting. Definitely, I don't like talking about money when people first come in. Mm-hmm. I want to get to know them. The advisors at Zinnia Wealth Management, they are also getting to know you, because we don't need to worry about your money just yet. We need to worry about, what are your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Where have you come from before? What were the pitfalls before? Because how can we fix them? So we want to come up with solutions first, whether it's a Social Security or tax plan or including inflation and those types of things. So I think that's why people are very open to talk to us initially. A funny thing, an advisor from Atlanta called me and said, hey, can you help out another female advisor with my firm because you're the best at it? She's having a hard time. And what I found out is she's just doing an hour appointment. She's just getting all the data, but she's not getting to know the client. I'm like, what are their travel wishes? What are their goals? Do they have grandkids? What's their estate plan? She's like, oh, I don't know that stuff. I'm like, you're in a second appointment and you don't know that stuff? So I just think a lot of advisors, I love advisors. They're all pretty great in my mind. Everybody does something different, but it's just a different approach. For us, we're solution driven. So let me find the problem first, and then we'll look at the assets. And whether you have $250,000 or $2.5 million, everybody seems to have a problem that we can fix, and there's a solution to it, or there's something that they haven't even known about that we're going to show them, which is interesting. So I think that's why people come and see us. They hear it in our voices as we're doing radio and as we're, doing our classes. And it makes people feel comfortable that they can come somewhere, ask the question that they might feel silly asking because they just don't know it, but they know that we don't care. We're going to give you the right answer, and we're going to educate you. If we don't have the answer, we're going to find it if it's a weird situation. And so people fear that they're going to be judged, and they're so scared to open up that sock drawer and show us everything. But we don't have a problem collecting everything, because they know when they come in that I cannot, and we cannot here at Zinnia create a financial plan, a long-term financial plan, unless we kind of know everything.
Yeah.
Health insurance. Did we have an HSA? Do we want one? Or do we need to get on Medicare? Do we keep our old employer plan? Are you getting a pension? Are you taking a lump sum? What's the best strategy? Half the time people come in, I say, no, you should probably keep that pension because it's paying you better than what you can get in the industry. Most advisors are like, no, we're going to roll the lump sum and we're going to give you an income so they can make money. But in reality, maybe it was better to leave some behind. So, as a fiduciary in this industry, we are proud of that. We honor that. We are looking out for your best interests. And when there is opportunity and times are changing, we're going to present those opportunities for you. Whether you have $100,000, whether you have $5 million, whatever the number is, our goal is to help you figure out, when can you retire? Can you do it now, or do you have to wait 5 years? How do we do it? What's your withdrawal strategy? What buckets of money do we pull from first? Because the goal at the end of the day is we don't want to outlive our money. We don't ever want to worry about it. So how can you not worry about it if you don't have a plan? Because a 60-40 is not a plan. A 401k is not a plan. Like literally, let's put a darn plan together that you understand, that you can follow, and that makes sense to you.
Well, the whole idea here is to limit that anxiety. If you have anxiety just talking about your money, maybe you came from a house like I did when money was never discussed. We'd talk about religion, we'd talk about death, but we sure wouldn't talk about our personal finances, and they did not talk about politics. That was just something that didn't happen at my house, and you might have had that as well. Or they may have been very open about it. We are products of how we were brought up. And if nobody ever talked about money, you probably are uncomfortable talking about it right now. But you hit on something, I think, that's significant there, Charisse. If you have all this anxiety about it, what if a conversation, what if a plan, what if putting something down on paper were to take some of that anxiety away? Wouldn't that be a better thing for your life? Give us a call at Zinnia Wealth and we'll talk through it. Here's our number, 833-368-3680, or online, zinniawealth.com. So, Charisse, just a couple minutes left in the show here. And as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I want to circle back on it just a little bit, it is tax time. There's a lot of people that are putting together their tax documents, their W-2s, or 1099s, and the things they've done for charity this year. And they're putting all of their receipts together and they're getting all of this done. There's other levels of taxes as well when it gets into retirement. And there's people out there that have come to you that have sold a business or they're about to sell a business. And this is going to put them into a huge tax bracket for 1 year. And to pay all those taxes, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And we talk a lot about people coming to you for some tax help. So let's just talk about that for a minute or two here.
Yeah, here in January, we've had a lot of people that did not close on land or homes or their businesses last year, and it got delayed to this year, which is actually kind of a positive thing because some people don't hear us till the final hour, and they say, gosh, I wish I would have heard this commercial or this radio show a year ago. And some of these people are now turning into our show, and they said, thank God we didn't close and do these sales in 2023 because we would have paid $500. I had one person almost $2 million in capital gains taxes. And we are one of the only advisors that do this around here and have access to it. When you sell a business or a property, if you have to pay $500,000 in capital gains, that's my number, I'm sticking to it, or more, like you're paying that amount because you had a sale. Our DTS strategy, that deferred tax strategy, there is a way to not pay any taxes on those dollars when you close. And we are putting money back into people's pockets over the next 10 years by potentially double because you don't have to pay that tax. And you get to put those dollars in the market or in some sort of investment to grow over the next 10 years, that $1 million you would have paid in taxes. And it's very valuable to people. And not too many people do it. Some of these people said, well, I talked to my attorney and my CPA and they don't even know what it is. I'm like, well, it's very niche. And it took me years to get my hands on this. And I finally, earned my keep and was approached to be able to offer it. And we've always done DSTs, which is a Delaware statutory trust. That's when you do a 1031 exchange from a property you're selling and you're buying more property. And we use these trust accounts so that you don't have to pay the taxes and you get income every year, et cetera, et cetera. And then we had other people that were selling their businesses and they're like, well, we don't want more real estate, Charisse. We want to put it in all the different types of investments you have. Do you have another strategy where I don't have to pay the tax bill on this? And I got it. Right. So it's exciting. It's fun to watch. We get our trustee and our attorneys involved. It's a little bit of a process, but you need to understand it, especially if you're getting ready to sell something this year, a business or big farm or land. I mean, it's happening out there all across Central Florida. Get in the know so that when you do make this sell, you're already ready to rock and roll on, do I like that idea or do I not? What are my alternatives? Or do I just pay the tax bill? So that's what we'll help you with.
Well, we would love to have the opportunity to talk through it. Everybody's got their own little special things that they need when it comes to retirement. And Charisse has been at it an awfully long time and able to help you in all different aspects of retirement planning. Give us a look on our website. At least sit down and talk through your concerns and, kick the tires on Zinnia Wealth and let's see if we're a good fit. Here's our website, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. There's a button there. It's a gold button. It says your retirement complimentary consultation. Click on that, or you can give us a call and set it up yourself. 833-368-3680. Charisse, that is all the time we have on this one. I'll give you the last word.
All righty. Gosh, this went by fast, Randy. My goodness. It's the month of January is flying by. But again, thank you guys for your comments and your questions on our site and going and sending us emails. We appreciate that. We are answering them and fitting them in different conversations as we go. And as usual, we want to help you lock down your lifestyle, take inventory on what your life will look like in retirement. So let's start planning now, live by design and not by default. And we'll see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at ZinniaWealth.com.
Charisse Rivers is an investment advisor representative of Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Charisse Rivers is licensed in your state, please contact their office. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Any client experiences discussed during this show are unique to that client. They are not meant to imply or suggest you will experience the same results. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Charisse Rivers, NPN Insurance License Number 8718011.